everyone. My name is Ondrej Krkoska. I'm here to present you a product from a company called Citrix. Was one of the partners of the previous on the previous slides. However, my focus will be to present a little bit less known product from Citrix, because Citrix is more recognized on the market as a cloud computing company, but technically speaking, basically Citrix delivers applications. And it's not only about Windows, Linux-based applications, equally important are web applications. And NetScaler is a device that can make the applications not only available, because it's a traditional load balancer, but also more secure. So I will be focused on the security features, like Application Firewall, protection against DOS attacks, and how these devices can help. However, before I will begin, we will make a short drawing after or at the end of my presentation. So we have a prize of an Apple Watch. So if you are interested to win a watch from Apple, we have a box where we can collect your business cards. And then at the end of my presentation, I will take one winner that will get the Apple Watch. So that's just for sight. So Citrix, just very few words about Citrix. Company exists more than 25 years, and in around 2005, they acquired a company called NetScaler and integrated it in the portfolio. NetScaler is an application delivery control device, which means historically we call the devices load balancers. However, now we call them application delivery controller because they deliver much more as load balancing. It's a reverse proxy device, typically in DMZ, can be in internal zone, and except the traffic steering and balancing, it offers also authentication offloading, acceleration of the connection speed, so we can optimize TCP profiles and really improve the connectivity performance. And also it has a very, very solid security features, web application firewall or protection against layer 7 or layer 4 DOS attacks. So the core functionality of these devices is to be in the DMZ network or in the internal zone, and depending on the need, you might combine also the security features, or you might use it as a completely standalone or a pure web application firewall device. From the deployment options or how it's deployed, it has pretty straightforward licensing, standard enterprise platinum or a standalone web application firewall, which is part of the platinum edition. And depending on the version, you can have the unlocked features that provide the security. So from enterprise above, we have already DOS protection, and in platinum on top of it we have with WAF. And when we speak about WAF, we mean not DOS, we mean protection against attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, so application layer attacks. Citrix is not a company that would be focused on networking. Citrix is focused on applications and delivery and the experience at the end. And to have the experience, it has to be fast, available, and secure. So we are securing the applications when they are delivered to the endpoints, and here we speak mostly about web applications. It's offered in 3 types of platforms, typical MPX, virtual VPX, completely same feature set, and so-called SDX. For VPX, you can download the free trial version with 3 months platinum license, so you can test all the features. We support all the major hypervisors like VMware, Xen Server, Hyper-V, and KVM. And you can see how it works, how it can protect. And then typically customers are going more with the MPX or SDX when it comes to the product implementation, because virtual is fine, but the hardware-based units, they have dedicated SSL cards, and SSL is also one of the security aspects today. In addition, the SDX platform also offers to run third-party product on the same box, so you can run Palo Alto Firewall, WebSense. There is a Trend Micro, Secure Metrics, around 5 or 6 vendors so far, and it's growing. So the goal of SDX platform is basically to replace a bunch of boxes in your data center, and this way reduce the cost of maintenance, electricity, cooling, renting, and so on and so on. It's a very modern approach of protecting the data. And just to give you an overview, these boxes are the most widely adopted controllers in .com world. So the estimation is around more than 70% of traffic on the web is managed over these devices from client user perspective. So whenever you go to sites like Yahoo, Apple, So Apple is one of our largest customers. IBM, then we have Alibaba.com, MSN, Bing, Skype, and so on. You always go through these devices, right? So it's one of the backbones really on the internet when it comes to application processing. From the lineup point of view, the boxes are divided based on the performance. So we have boxes that start with 500 megabit throughput up to 180 80 gigabits per second. Depending on the model type and the need, the differences are obviously in the ports, so built-in ports, fiber, 10G, 40G ports. You can also, if you want to reach over the capacity of the boxes, you can create a cluster of 32 nodes, which means that theoretical throughput of one logical unit can be over 3.5 terabits per second with balancing, security, and all around when you cluster these units together. So extremely powerful and pretty much far more from the throughput point of view as compared with comparable devices on the market. Depending on the mode we have, so virtual, then MPX or SDX. We can also be very flexible. That's another thing that Citrix was one of the first on the market that came in. You can upgrade the performance of the boxes. So we have a couple of hardware units, but they are licensed controlled. So you can buy a box with 15 gigabit throughput, but in 2 years you need more power because you have more services, you need to have more strict rules, everything takes the performance down. You can upgrade the box with simple license upgrade. You don't have to buy new boxes. So this flexibility of NetScaler was pretty much the first on the market when it started. Same applies for virtual units as well. So now to the features and how they can protect. So application delivery controllers, they have a long way. They exist on the market since 97, 98. Especially NetScaler is a company that was created in 98. And in 2005, it was acquired by Citrix and slowly integrated. When customers are implementing such devices, one of the security features they are looking for is authentication offloading. So very basic, simple principle. You have access to some website or a web service, which might have some authentication mechanism, but you need to add OTP solutions, so SMS, token-based, software token, client certificate, whatever. Then instead of doing it on the back end, you put NetScaler or ADC in the middle between the client and the application. The client authenticates, and through the single sign-on process is doing the single sign-on to the back end. So these devices can achieve to be a single point of access to various group of applications. It has also a portal mode. Microsoft applications, they require Kerberos authentication, typically SharePoint, so we can transfer username and password or UPN to a Kerberos ticket because obviously Kerberos is not accessible from outside, add two-factor, and improve the authentication. But it's not only about that. Except full auditing, so every user is logged in, client IP, type of access, and so on. There is a very popular attack on the net, which is called brute force, which means that there are a lot of robots trying to detect your logon credentials by typing admin, administrator, user, or usernames and trying to riddle mathematically all kinds of passwords. The typical result of such thing is that accounts are getting locked, right? You can have a dual authentication, or in our case, also as a top-on brute force means that we can identify the frequency of the request from where it's coming, how often it comes, how often it tries to riddle the password, and basically based on the frequency of the settings and policies around it, we simply block the request, we drop the packets from such resource. So we filter valid and non-valid requests. This is pretty much the principle of application security, always filtering the good from the bad. So brute force attack protection, very simply to set up. It's actually a question of a couple clicks, and you secure your company with the account locking, which is very boring, and support guys in companies are always called unlock my account. So very helpful in this way. AAA. SSL. So there has been a lot around SSL in the last 2-3 years. So SSL was sleeping for a very long time, but then came Heartbleed, right? And bang. People realized that SSL is not as secure as it was in the past. So Heartbeat made a big noise in the world of SSL because it allowed the attacker to steal your private key from the web server. And once you have a private key, you can see the encrypted data on the SSL layer. So you just have to save the data, have the private key, and you can read it, right, completely. So when it comes to banking applications, that can be really disastrous, or when it comes to focus attacks, that's also very dangerous. So fix of Heartbeat was that you had to patch the system, but basically every company that was affected by this problem had to recreate the certificate and get a new private key, right? And not all of them have done this by today. So NetScaler didn't have this vulnerability because we don't use OpenSSL, we use commercial libraries. However, if you had so NetScaler in front of it, you were not affected. So for example, Amazon, one of our large customers, is using this. Then we had Beast Attack, exploit, crime. Crime is using compression. So when you have SSL and you compress the data, crime can use the compression in the stream to hack inside the data stream. So today, it's actually recommended not to use compression when you use HTTPS. Typical example, if you know Speedy protocol from Google, that has a compression built-in. So Speedy protocol has, for example, this crime issue. Poodle Attack basically killed SSL 3, right? So when Poodle came out as an attack, since then, it's not recommended to use SSL 3 version, which is still widely used, and it's recommended to go to the later TLS standards. But still, companies use it. But a couple of weeks ago, it should not be used at all. And then we had Freak, SSL renegotiation attack was used to hack Twitter 2-3 years ago, which are all very tricky way how to get to the stream. And basically, every couple months we see something new. So there has never been so many SSL-focused attacks in the past as we see now. And how to avoid it? Basically, the only way how you can avoid SSL attacks today is that you use the latest ciphers, the latest SSL libraries and settings, which means, on the other hand, you will reduce a lot of performance from your servers, right? Then more secure you go, then more computing power you need, right? That's logic, more complex keys, and so on. It impacts specifically transaction per second, so the load of the website is slower. That's a result. Then more stricter you go, then slower load of the website. You have to invest in the servers, or you can buy boxes like NetScaler that will do the SSL for you. So NetScaler has a set of profiles which can be used to tune every public accessible, we call it VIP, so let's say application, to reach the maximum recommended security. So SSLabs.com is a free service from Qualys. You can try it anytime. You simply type the FQDN, the address of the website, and it will do a lot of scans and give you the result how secure you are. So our engineers, or we use it when we try to tweak really properly the settings of the customer to find the balance between compatibility and security. So A+, you can reach when you have TLS 1.2, encryptic ciphers, which means that you have to switch off all the standards, which might impact compatibility, right? For example, Google is still on B+ because of the compatibility. So Chrome browser from Google is very strict and gives a lot of info when you use old ciphers, but Google itself is running on the old standards because of compatibility issue. So to achieve this A+, you need to use latest Cipher Suite support like SHA-2. SHA-2 was designed by NSA, so who knows how really secure there is if there is no backdoor, but that's what it is. SHA-3 is now under development in Europe. TLS 1.2, so the library standard. TLS 1.3 is already in kind of pre-testing mode, so we expect in very soon time TLS 1.3 standard to come out. And ACDHE Cipher Suite. So what is ACDHE? So ACDHE came out after the well-known affair of Snowden that started to talk very openly how NSA is saving your data and can read the data, can encrypt the data, and so on. Because in US, for example, when you run out of your certificate validity, you need to give the private key to the government, right? So when they load all the data, they simply can read it. So ACDHA is a second generation of perfect forward secrecy, which means that you encrypt additionally the data in the encrypted stream. So even if someone would get your private key, like with a Heartbeat attack, and would see the data, sniff it, and would save the data, he cannot read the data stream, right? So this is how you can protect it with the ecliptic curve. So DH is Diffie-Hellman. This is the second version of perfect forward secrecy, which consumes less cycles, less computing power, but still all of these settings have a tremendous impact on the SSL, right? So from the datasheet written form, you can calculate several times lower performance. It all depends how you tune it. It's also not recommended to have SSL 3 enabled. So in our latest release, we simply disable SSL version 3. You can still have it enabled if you would like to. We have secure renegotiation, so the renegotiation of the keys. That's one of the older attacks. And TLS fallback, that was kind of second version of Poodle Attack that could force to fall back from TLS to SSL standard and provide the attack on the SSL. So this is something which is part of the solution. Another thing is Cipher Suite list. So Cipher Suite is basically what client versus server is negotiating when they create SSL connection. If we have a wrong list of the wrong order of the list, then it might happen that the client will negotiate all the ciphers with the server and simply will be vulnerable. So there is a new reorder in our latest version, and you can of course customize it per each app. But if you want to go further and you're really paranoid, then we have something called like Phipps standards. So Phipps is set of standards which is mandatory. For example, if you want to have such boxes in US government, you must be Phipps compliant. Right? And Phipps compliance means that no weak ciphers, no weak standards are allowed. Every private key is encrypted with additional key, and so on and so on. So Phipps again slows the performance down, but provides you the highest possible security. We have two options how we can provide Phipps compliant appliance. First, we have a Phipps dedicated models, or you simply take any of the platform SDX, VPX as well, and MPX. You attach it to Tails and Shield, which is a HSM device. The device takes over the responsibility for the private key, for the SSL negotiation, and you simply make yourself Phipps compliant. In Europe, it's not mandatory, but you see Phipps in classified government project, banking sector, and so on. So, and with this one box, you can attach more boxes, not only one NetScaler, it's a central HSM module. So very effective, but as I said, it depends on each customer if they go with Phipps, because it's also higher cost, obviously, because you need to have more performance. So this was about the SSL part, and the way we do it, we decrypt simply the traffic on the NetScaler, and then we can re-encrypt or keep the connection open to the backend, depending how would you like to size it. But to be able to do web application firewall scanning, we need to see the code. So we have to do SSL offloading in the case. So what is web application firewall? So it's pretty much still very underestimated topic. And the firewalls are getting more and more popular, even in our case in Eastern Europe. However, it's more coming now. So application firewall has nothing to do with traditional network firewall, right? Which is opening ports, checking for data, and so on. Application firewall is strictly focused on web. And it protects the data the way that it needs to read everything in the buffer, using the policies that we specified, checking what's inside, if there is some harmful code, and allow to go in or allow to go back. You don't need web application firewall if you have perfect code, right? If your web application is written in 100% secure way, you don't need WAF, right? But this is not the case in more than 90%, right? Developers are changing, people forget old codes, and so on. So every code has some kind of vulnerability, and this is where WAF comes in. And it's more expensive, typically, fixing the code like to buy such devices, right? Today, attacks are not anymore driven by hackers that sit at home. It's organized crime. You can buy such attacks. For example, simple DOS attack costs $120, right? You pay $120 online, and you take down the website for 24 hours, right? You could do it for fun. So these things are there, and they exist. The more complex attack, the more expensive it goes. And in these $120, you get even 1/2 hour extra just to see if the attack was succeeded. So it's there, and it's getting more and more. Not only websites, obviously, we do one thing, we focus on applications. So of course, your protection needs to be based from more layers. But when you speak of application, then we have the NetScaler WAF here. So all the traffic flows through the NetScaler to the backend system when it can be load balanced, so it can be part of the load balancing logic, so it will have availability, offloading. We can play with every connection with TCP profiles, improve connectivity of smartphones, so we improve 3G networks. These devices are used by telco to improve LTE networks. So we can play a lot with all the layers in the model, and on the application layer, based on the profile, we can check and read the data, and based on the profile, we can either block it or allow to go in. The maximum theoretical protection speed of throughput of firewall is 40 G by the high-end models. And just to give you an overview, second maybe fastest firewalls on the market are around 5-6 gigabit per second, and one of the leaders is around 1 gig. So it takes a lot of resources to do this, right? And more strict rules are applied, and more you need to read the data, then more you slow down the throughput. So this number is idealistic, like the petrol consumption of today's cars, but in the real world, it would go a little bit lower, depending how strict you want to go, right? And all of this, we can set up in the profiles. It's a fully ICSA certified device, which is absolutely needed certification for, again, so-called next-gen web application firewalls. So it needs to go through various tests, verification, needs to have a hybrid model. So there are not many vendors that have really advanced firewall. There are less than 10 on the market, and each of them needs to have this ICSA certification. Of course, OWASP 10, which is organization that is collecting the most popular attacks, needs to be compliant too. You have a chance to do a single directional or bidirectional analysis. Especially bidirectional takes a lot of resources. So from a box which has 10 G, you might easily drop to less than 1 gigabit. And we speak about unit which is several times faster than the other competitors on the market. The hybrid model provides positive and negative combination of checks, which means that negative model is like antivirus. You need to know the attack, then you can protect. So you need to have a signature, update the signatures, and you need to select in the signature file what you need to protect. Positive model is more difficult to configure. Sometimes it takes a month, 2, 3 to tune properly web application firewall, because every app is individual and every app has a different set of vulnerabilities. So positive model logic is block all, allow exceptions, right? Where negative model is allow everything and block what we know to block. And you can take these two models into one profile, do all the necessary settings around it, put it on the web application, or only on a section of web application, or you can have several types of profiles that you can combine with the same application. And this is the way you reach the best protection level. So all the leaders in this space need to have a hybrid profile. The signatures are based on Snort, which is the largest database, open source database of known vulnerabilities. We have a partnership with SourceFire, which is preparing the signature for us, which is regularly updated. Could be automatic update, could be manual update. It's all up to the administrator. To make the things simple and faster, we have a partnership with 5 companies that are providing scanning tools. So Senzik, Qualys is behind this SSL app scanning tool, Whitehead, IBM, and Trey Micro. And this application simply, they will scan your website, give you a nice report of all the vulnerabilities that you have. The report will generate the signature file, you put it in the profile, and you have a deployment in minutes instead of weeks or tuning. So much faster deployment. And then you can run the scan again and compare to the customer. Look, this is before, this is after. Because people really don't know how vulnerable are the apps. It's all about HTML and also XML checks. So we can validate XML commands which are part of the stream. And again, there is also DOS methods in XML Word as well. So depending on the profile, simple or basic or advanced, we can also touch more advanced, let's say Web 2 type of applications. PCI compliance. So PCI compliance is another standard and report which is necessary if you have payment options on your website, right? Or if you have some content. So PCI compliance means that you create a PDF directly from the NetScaler with all the settings that will be simply green, and you are compliant. And if you have a security audit, it's enough to give him this information, I'm PCI compliant, and you get a stamp. Another option to be compliant is that the audit will completely check your website code, right? Can you imagine how long it can take, right? Just to make a simple report. So PCI compliance, absolutely needed in banking sector, internet shops, and everywhere where they work with credit card. There are, of course, also credit card protection methods here. So, and how we differ from the others, because we are obviously not the only ones that are doing web application firewall, but how we try to differentiate. So the pay-as-you-grow capability means scalability. So you can update performance either with clustering or either with updating, unlocking the cores of the device and boost up the protection. It's also adopted and used in cloud environments. So we have connectors to OpenStack, VMware NSX, Cisco ACI, cloud platform where you can use also the virtual-based firewalls for small performance need, and then it can be automatically generated based on the demand and so on. So deep integration with cloud environments is also one of the things where NetScaler is actually leader on the market. And then it's performance. So NetScaler is the fastest ADC on market when it comes to packet processing engine. Right? It's written in a very, very simple way how it processes all the packets. And just to give a proof, so NSS Labs has done a competition report with no sponsorship behind it. It's an independent company. Nobody sponsored it from us, from the others on the table. And basically, Citrix NetScaler was selected as the winner when it comes to effectiveness, right? So it's 2 times faster for the price, like the number 2. It's 3 times more effective financially, like the number 3. And as you can see, Imperva is leader in WAF, but it's very effective and very slow in many ways. So this is performance versus security. All of the companies above had a protection of 99.7, 99.8, so close to 100, nobody is around 100. So the protection level is very comparable or more or less the same, and the difference in our case is really the performance. This is what we are really proud, that it's really, really so far. That's why NetScaler is the widest adopted ADC in .com world, because .com has the largest amount of connections, right, compared to enterprise or telco. After the report, they even made some changes in the code and could double the performance. So when we speak today about the theoretical limited numbers, right, you always have to take this reserve. This is really just theoretical limit. Then you can go up to 40G. But when we speak about traditional services, we of course speak about much less speeds. But when you go with the advanced profile, with all the settings around XML and so on, then of course the numbers are going down. This is really, really purely more datasheet based. And in addition to WAF, because WAF is one other part of ADC, every NetScaler has a layer 4 DOS automatic protection. So every SYN, TCP SYN that is done between us and data center is interrupted, and only when we see a full handshake, we open the connection to the backend. If there is a SYN attack in Czech Republic, for example, 1.5 years ago, 3 days of attack. 1 day news, 2nd day banks, 3rd day government, right? Every day. Very simple attack, very easy to provide. So NetScaler is basically like the bumper, right? It sustains all the SYN floods until it's overloaded, then it can stop the response, but it can never crash, right? That's the goal. It should never allow the packet to reach your farm so it doesn't crash. Even the NetScaler cannot crash. Layer 7, those are more intelligent. It's using slow post, or other request method, but basically both attacks are aimed to keep connections open as much as they can until the server will crash, right? So no stealing of data, harming your service. There are countries where those attacks are constantly, especially more east from here. Then we have TCP, HTTP profiles, which have selective acknowledgement, HTTP protection, content filtering. Then we have ShareConnect, priority queuing, which are taking care that your website is always available even under heavy attack. And for example, rate limiter is one of the core features when it comes to detection the rates. So when we calculate how many requests per second are coming from particular source, which is looking suspicious, then the rate limiter is a feature which is checking this frequency, and based on the result it can block or drop the packets depending on the result. So that was on kind of high level, more or less everything about NetScaler Firewall, and now we can do the drawing. So we will see if the gentleman will be here or not, but Agnes, come take it out so people don't think that I did by purpose. Yeah, thank you. So, Mr. from Fair Film Studio, Chardash Ferenc, congratulations, you won Apple iWatch. Oh. Congratulations. Come here. So thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the very interesting event. If you would have some questions or more deeper discussion, we have a Citrix booth just like the others, and we will be there with my colleagues until the end of this event. Thank you.